You've felt it 1,000 mornings. Wrap both hands around a mug, and heat drains out of the ceramic and into your palms, spreading warmth up through your fingers until it fades quietly into the winter air around you. That heat came from a flame, a filament, a stovetop coil. But underneath all of it, in the end, it came from one place. A small yellow star, 93 million miles away, endlessly pouring warmth across 140 million square miles of ocean and stone and ice, holding the whole system in balance. That balance has never once tipped all the way to cold, not in the entire history of complex life on this planet. Now imagine the warmth simply stops arriving. Your mind immediately jumps to a cinematic instant, a sudden, violent wall of white sweeping across the skyline, skyscrapers encased in crystal ice within seconds, birds dropping mid-flight, cities frozen into silent marble statues. It is a terrifying image, but thermal physics is far more stubborn than disaster films suggest. Earth does not freeze in a single heartbeat. It is wrapped in two massive thermal flywheels, an atmosphere weighing 5 quadrillion tons and oceans containing over 300 million cubic miles of liquid water. That immense thermal mass holds onto its energy with desperate tenacity. Heat does not vanish in a dramatic flash. It leaks out slowly, degree by degree, over weeks and months. The first lethal threat to sweep across the globe is not the biting cold. It is the absolute darkness. Long before global temperatures drop below freezing, photosynthesis grinds to a complete standstill. The microscopic phytoplankton drifting near the ocean surface, the unseen engines producing every second breath of oxygen you take, starve within days as the light dies. Crop fields do not freeze overnight. They simply stop growing in a sunless twilight. The death of the sun is, at first, a catastrophe of biology rather than temperature. Global food chains shatter into dust while the surface air still feels strangely, deceptively temperate. To understand how humanity confronts this long, darkening descent, we must look away from global maps and step into the quiet corners where men and women fight to keep small fires burning. From silent sanctuaries in southern Europe to deep subterranean shafts carved into the bedrock beneath the southern hemisphere. On the 8th afternoon without a sunrise, inside a cloistered stone monastery perched high above the Aegean Sea on Mount Athos, Greece, an aging librarian monk lights a small tallow lamp. The air smells of old parchment, beeswax, and cold salt spray drifting through the high stone windows. He does not light the wick to study ancient theological manuscripts, but to carefully log the unaccustomed silence settling over the black waters below. Around him, the resident brothers no longer pray for the return of dawn. They gather in the nave to pray for the preservation of human memory. When the bronze monastery bell tolls for midnight vespers, no one counts the hours anymore, because time stripped of light and shadow has lost its meaning. He sets his lamp down beside an 11th century icon, its unlit candle standing as a silent frozen sentinel in the gloom. 3 weeks later, in a residential apartment in Hokkaido, Japan, a mother sits on a tatami mat with her 5-year-old child, surrounded by stacked futons and heavy winter coats. The air smells sharply of kerosene as their small space heater sputters its final breath and dies. Outside, snow is no longer falling from rain clouds. The moisture in the stagnant air is freezing directly into microscopic ice needles that glint faintly under battery-powered lanterns. The mother stops telling her child bedtime stories about summer festivals and green fields, realizing with a quiet ache that descriptions of warm sunlight now sound like legends from a forgotten realm. They crawl together under a makeshift tent built from blankets and dining chairs, sharing body heat in the dark. Beside them, on a small wooden nightstand, a digital alarm clock flickers once, its screen freezing into blank gray static as the ambient temperature drops past the limits of its electronics. If you are watching this right now and feeling a quiet weight settle in your chest, that is a natural reaction to contemplating a world robbed of its primary engine. We are witnessing a slow-motion transformation, one that strips away the superficial layers of human civilization to reveal what truly holds us together. Stay with me, because as we push deeper into this endless twilight, the story shifts from how the surface perishes to how life redefines what it means to endure. By the 6th month, 3,000 meters below the surface in a vast copper shaft in Rustenburg, South Africa. A former mining supervisor leads a community of 400 survivors living in complete subterranean exile. The air down here does not smell of frost, but of damp basalt, sulfur, and heavy human sweat. While the surface world above has plunged to -80 degrees Celsius, turning the atmosphere dry and brittle, the deep geothermal heat of the Earth's mantle keeps these dark tunnels at a sweltering 30 degrees. They survive on trays of spirulina algae cultured under LED grow lights, powered by an improvised turbine tapped into high-pressure thermal groundwater. Yet the physical survival comes at a psychological cost. The supervisor frequently runs his calloused thumb over a faded photograph of an open African savanna, pinned to a steel support beam, where the red dirt used to stretch endlessly under a blinding blue sky. 2 years into the dark freeze, on an industrial natural gas platform anchored off the coast of Hammerfest, Norway, a team of marine engineers lives above a dead ocean. The air is filled with the rhythmic, deafening groaning of 3-meter-thick sea ice, grinding against the platform's massive hollow steel legs. The sky above is a void of absolute zero, but beneath 40 meters of solid ice, the deep ocean water remains a liquid 3 degrees Celsius, protected by the insulating ice cap above. The engineers have modified the platform's heavy deep-sea drilling equipment to circulate synthetic coolant between the frigid surface air and the warmer liquid abyss below, driving low-pressure thermodynamic generators that power their lights and hydroponic bays. A young engineer sits in the monitoring station, watching a real-time feed from a deep-water sonar camera as a small, pale deep-sea crustacean drifts quietly through the black ocean below, entirely unaware that the world above has vanished. To understand how these subterranean and oceanic habitats manage to keep humanity alive, we must look at the fundamental physics of heat transfer. A self-sustaining underground shelter functions on the exact same thermodynamic principle as a high-grade vacuum flask or an orbital spacecraft. The Earth's crust acts as an immense thermal sponge, storing primordial heat generated during the planet's violent formation 4.5 billion years ago, continuously supplemented by the slow, natural radioactive decay of elements like potassium and uranium deep within the mantle. Just as heat drains out of ceramic and into your palms when you hold a warm mug on a cold morning, thermal energy always moves along a steep gradient toward colder space. The core engineering challenge of long-term survival in an extinguished solar system is not generating new heat from scratch, but slowing down that relentless, natural leakage. By utilizing multi-layered reflective insulation and tapping directly into deep geothermal pockets, these habitats exploit the same heat retention mechanics that high-efficiency district heating networks use today, trapping precious calories within microenvironments, while the vast vacuum outside attempts to siphon away every unit of warmth. When we remove the sun from the equation, we are forced to confront a striking paradox about our existence. Earth has always been a fragile pocket of warmth floating through an endlessly cold universe. Deep in geological history, during the cryogenian period over 600 million years ago, our planet froze almost entirely from pole to equator in an event known as Snowball Earth. Yet even then, subglacial volcanic vents and hydrothermal ocean fissures kept microscopic life thriving in the dark, driving evolutionary adaptations that eventually paved the way for complex animal life. This scenario reveals that life is not merely a passive passenger basking in daylight, but a remarkably stubborn thermodynamic force. The heat that sustains us is not solely a gift falling from the sky. It is an intrinsic property of the rock beneath our feet and the physics that built our world. We are, at our deepest level, creatures formed by thermal balances, capable of engineering small sanctuaries of light, even when the broader cosmos turns dark. The next time you wrap both hands around a warm mug on a quiet morning, take a moment to feel that brief, migrating heat flowing into your fingers. It is more than just a fleeting comfort. It is a gentle reminder of the invisible energy holding our entire world together. And as long as that warmth lingers in your hands, the story is still being written.